Hi folks, welcome to Libertatious. I'm Adam.
And I'm Lisa.
We're here to explore the ideas behind libertarianism and atheism.
As ex-Mormon atheists, we want to show people that there's meaning and happiness in the world outside of religion and even away from God.
And as minarchist libertarians, we want to show people how the government's role should be limited to protecting our natural rights. And hello and good morning.
Hello, hello.
And it has been some time since our last recording, so there's going to be a lot of catching up today. Happy holidays.
Yes, you too.
All of the holidays, Thanksgiving through New Year's.
Yep.
Lots to celebrate. What kind of fun things did you do?
Well, for Thanksgiving, we just hung out here. Texas isn't as locked down as most of the other states are, but yeah, we just hung out here at home, and we did the same for Christmas, and we'll do it for New Year's too.
Yeah, I think we're also getting to that age where we're just less interested in being out. Right?
No, maybe. I have to think about that one.
There's people we want to see, but I mean, we're not staying up doing the clubbing thing anymore, right? Like, maybe we're up late at the computer, but that's about it. Because the promise of bed being about 10 feet away, it's nice.
Yep. Well, for Christmas, I bought my husband, he wanted Last of Us 2 video game, so I got that for him, and I didn't tell him. I also got him Ghost of Tsushima.
Yes.
So that one was actually a surprise. And so, yeah, he'll be playing that for a while, and I'll probably sit on the couch with him and just watch while I read a book.
So is he still doing that thing where he, like, right away plays it on the hardest difficulty so that way his play is, like, efficient?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, he does that.
That's such a funny way of doing it. I get too frustrated. I get mad. So I'm like, yeah, normal's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I know it's like low key, kind of easy.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's okay. Like, if you just want to sit back and enjoy the game and have fun without it being super hard and frustrating, then yeah, go for it. It's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah, well, I really hope he likes Ghost of Tsushima. It is just a huge favorite of mine. I played the first Last of Us game, but I never played the second. Okay.
Yeah, I watched him play the first one, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. Yeah, the storyline was fine, but I also liked the gameplay itself, so that was pretty cool. Well, how was your Christmas?
We were just here. I do have my parents that are living about 15 minutes away, so we were able to at least see some extended family.
Mm-hmm. How are things going with her and her family leaving the church?
They're getting used to it, and they're not backsliding at all. In fact, they seem to be going full on, right? And like her mother's like almost anti at this point.
Oh, wow.
She's like very unhappy about the fact that she feels betrayed, right? She feels like she's been duped, and to a large extent she has been, right? And she's got her claws out a little bit more than I do.
Mm-hmm. That's a natural reaction.
Yeah, it is. And, with my wife, it's been really interesting because, she's done more the thing that I've done, where it's more like, okay, well, now I can kind of explore the world and myself a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I can do more of the journey of self-discovery. And so I was really afraid that she was going to try to keep a foot in both camps.
Yeah, because the socialization part of church is what she really likes.
But since that part of it is hurting already because of COVID, it's a little bit easier, I think, for her to come over, and also because of the attitude of her mom. So we've shared a couple of drinks at this point, which is cool. I don't think she's going to turn into an alcoholic. She still seems to prefer alcohol for cooking purposes. Yeah. We're also just a bit older, and it's going to be harder for us to be addicted to things as we don't have that pre-25-year-old developing brain, right? Like we're we're pretty much only backsliding at this point. At most, I'm sure it's still possible to become an alcoholic, but
it is.
Neither of us is anywhere near it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
Yeah.
She bought me a set of stuff to make various coffee and tea drinks.
Oh, nice.
Because that's a rule she always thought was silly, but she tried to follow it. So, it's just so funny. A few weeks ago, she wouldn't even try coffee, right? Like, no matter what. Even though she knew it was silly, even though she had no justification. And now she's like, oh yeah, I'll drink whiskey with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now she's more free to do what she wants to do, even if it's just to try something. Whether she ends up liking it or not, she's free to try it now.
Exactly. And for the most part, she's going, this is for me, this isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
And she's picking and choosing, and that's great. That's healthy.
Yeah.
Right? She's not going into like rebellion binge drinking, like the church lied to me, so now I need to become an alcoholic, right?
Yeah, or start smoking and all this other stuff they tell you not to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think either of us are even going to try that.
I hope not.
Yeah. Cigarettes are just so far beyond anything I'm even vaguely interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had a nightmare where you were smoking? Has that ever happened?
No.
I have that nightmare.
Really?
Yeah, it's recurring. I've had it, not like weekly or daily, but like every year or so, I'll have a smoking dream.
Interesting.
And it's like I'm afraid I'll get addicted to something, I guess.
Oh, huh. Interesting. No, I've never had that. I have other recurring bad dreams, but no, not that. Huh. Have you ever tried a cigarette?
No.
Okay.
Have you?
I've never had a desire to smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Or drink coffee. Like, even if that wasn't a rule, I don't think I would do it because I don't like the smell.
Oh, really? Yeah. Mm-hmm. The smell of coffee is attractive to me because it reminds me of my grandfather.
Oh.
Because he always had it around. And it's funny, I don't know if I would have a different opinion had that not been the case. But for that reason, I think, mostly, I do find the smell alluring. And taste-wise, it's definitely acquired, but I have definitely come to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And now I'm learning how to do all kinds of other fancy sort of barista-esque type stuff with my new tools. I have a milk frother.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm making like lattes and stuff. I'm having a fun time.
Hey, didn't you buy a book months and months ago about bartending? Wasn't that a thing you were actually looking into?
Yeah, and it's still something I'm interested in, but I slowed down on the cocktail mixing because I went on a diet. That's
right. And it's just empty calories, so you couldn't afford the calories.
Exactly. They're not efficient. Although a beer's not too bad. Because they're kind of filling. But again, that would be like, okay, I'm counting on my calories. It's the evening. I'm about to go to bed. Do I have room for this? Okay, great. As opposed to trying to have that be a meal or something. That's not going to work out.
Nope.
But it's been fun to share all my stuff with my wife. It's been fun to pull stuff out of the cabinet and say, hey, try this, or speak more freely.
That's a big one. That one's huge.
Also just other, let's say, grown-up topics have become more interesting. And so that's good.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see her go on this journey of self-discovery to an extent. I mean, she largely knows who she is.
Right.
But now she's, learning these other avenues, these other aspects.
And
that's very exciting for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad.
Well, how about your husband? I mean, I know he's been basically out of things, but I know that he made it a little bit more complex.
Yeah, he's been on his own journey. He's out of the church now. He's doing well. The thing that I noticed mostly was being able to talk about stuff. Just like you. No topic is really off the table anymore. And so it's been freeing, and I feel closer to him because of it.
Yeah, that's huge. Like, it sucks to feel like you're not being honest about yourself with your significant other.
Yeah. Or just that you have to, like, you want to take their feelings and beliefs into consideration. And so there are some things that may be on your mind, my mind, but we just don't talk about it with them.
Right. Yeah. And that's basically like visiting my folks, right? We get along, but there's certain topics that we just don't discuss them.
What did they think about your wife leaving the church? Did they know or care?
I don't think they know.
Okay. Because didn't your dad baptize your son?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
That was at the tail end, essentially.
Yeah.
And it was like he got baptized, and like 2 or 3 months later, this all happened. It wasn't long after that the serious doubts started creeping in. And, honestly, I say creeping in. I mean, it was whirlwind.
It just hit.
Instantly. And I'm still kind of in shock about it.
Yeah, just because it happened so quickly and so hard.
My eldest, she's like, oh, good. I don't need this church stuff at all.
Yeah.
And she is telling me that she is bisexual.
What?
And
isn't she like 11?
She's 10.
Okay.
She is, let's say, blossoming. And I still think it's a bit early to say, but I guess at that age, I knew that I liked girls.
Mm-hmm.
So she can imagine herself being romantically involved with both at this point. But she did ask me, is this, how's this going to be with Grandpa?
Oh, your dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, I was like, he's going to love you no matter what. But it is going to be complicated.
Yes.
He's going to have a hard time with this one.
Mm-hmm. Did your wife ever have a problem with gay people?
No, not really. I mean, it's insane because, I grew up in a theater family. Uh-huh. So why my dad even has this issue at all is crazy.
I know he's a theater teacher. Gosh.
And to his credit, he's gotten a lot better.
Good.
But things have changed a lot in a short amount of time. And then for my wife, she grew up doing theater tech and also doing choir and stuff.
Right.
She's been involved in the arts from high school on. And so, she's had friends where I'm like, your friend is definitely gay. And she's like, no, they're not. I'm like, no, you're 100% gay.
They totally are.
They totally are. But they're all LDS, so they were all in denial. It's just they're basically, like confirmed bachelors and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, that person would be so much happier outside the church at this point.
Yeah.
But
well, good. I'm glad she never had that hang up. A lot of members do. And yeah, it's unfortunate. A lot of these gay films that, oh my gosh. So, all right. So there have been a few gay films that have been, some of them have been just, a couple of them were just bad films. There's some that were really good. One of the ones I just recently watched is called Latter Days. Ooh. And it's about a Mormon missionary. It's a drama. It's not a documentary. But the guy who wrote the film, he was LDS and he went on a mission. And he kind of had this idea. He's like, what if old me and current me were in the same room talking to each other? What would that conversation look like? And so, so that's kind of the first scenes that he had in his mind was him as a missionary and then him kind of as he is now. And so that film was actually really, really good. The story was good. Even the music. How some music is like so cheesy and like, the big romantic climax and like the music swells and it's just, I find that obnoxious personally. But the music in this film was really good. And I may be biased because I was LDS, but they got the LDS stuff down pretty well. There were a few things that, like the discussions that they had, the missionaries, my husband was like, they wouldn't have brought that up. About the blacks in the priesthood,
Right.
and then, how the church views gay people. He's like, they wouldn't have said it the way they said it, but I get why they did. But, if that's a really good film to watch, I think, especially if you're LDS, because they brought up, gay conversion therapy, which does happen in the LDS community.
Yes.
That's not just a mainstream Christian thing. The LDS people do it too. And it was, just as a film itself, it was really good. I recommend that one.
Yeah, it's crazy that this is a thing that still exists, but people really think that you can decide or that you're suffering from some sort of condition.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of the body of evidence that has been given, they just say, nope, it can't possibly be that way. God would not have designed it that way.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but even people who haven't experienced trauma or anything like that, a lot of them who say they're born that way, it's like, I was born this way.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. No, it was...
because who would pick it, right? I mean, who would decide knowing that their family would shun them or dislike them? I mean, of course, if they could hit a switch, they would just be quote unquote normal, right? For the most part.
A lot of them would. And it's because of the way they're treated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if people would treat gay people well and just like, regular human beings, then a lot of gay people wouldn't have a problem being gay. It's because of the way they're looked at and treated.
I can remember doing research on Jackie Robinson when I was in school.
Oh.
And there was this part where he tried to scrub off his black skin and see if there was like whiteness underneath.
Oh, wow.
Because it was so difficult for him to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's true or not, but that was part of the research we had done. And we had gotten on the phone with his widow.
Really?
As part of the research project, yeah. And I didn't bring that up.
Good.
Is this real?
Uh-huh.
But I imagine it must have been similar to the way the LGBT people feel in these days, trying to get along with their tribe, with their family, and to try to escape this shunning that occurs, the shame,
uh-huh,
the persecution.
Yeah.
And it's always been so weird to me that Mormons have this cognitive dissonance about persecution. Because you go to Temple Square and you watch Legacy, right?
I think I've seen that one, yeah.
In Legacy, it's about the pioneers. And you watch a guy get tarred and feathered, right? And you're like, wow, people were sure mean to the Mormons. Like, how could anybody treat someone else like this?
Uh-huh.
Then fast forward to 2008, and we're not tarring and feathering anybody, but we are voting to deny people rights.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing.
Yeah, and in 2015, you've got this new policy that the church put out that specifically discriminates against gay couples and their children.
Right.
Like, it specifically targeted them.
Like, you have to renounce their lifestyle or whatever to get baptized?
Yes, and you can't get baptized till you're 18. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that was never a hurdle that your wife had to cross. That was one thing that started you doubting the church was it Prop 22 in California?
It was Prop 8 at the time.
Prop 8 at the time. Okay, yeah, 22 was the previous one. Prop 8. Yep.
Passing out the bumper stickers at priesthood meeting.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right. I can remember my LDS roommate doing phone calls.
Oh.
Because that's what the bishop told him to do.
Yeah, they're expected to do that. Yeah, with my folks, the bishop wanted my dad, and this might have been for Prop 22. I can't remember which of the two it was, but the bishop wanted people to go around and pass out flyers and put signs on bumper stickers on your car and signs on your yard. And my dad said no, because he didn't want our car or home to become vandalized. And the door-to-door thing is just really awkward. It's so, it's just weird.
It's not fun.
No. No, it's not.
Yeah, even as a missionary, when I was completely gung-ho about all of this and felt like I was doing the will of God, I was still like, going door to door sucks.
Yeah. And you were in France too, where they're not even like Christian oriented. So
No, not at all. So we had a lot of interesting experiences dealing with, frankly, mostly atheist people, traditionally, but completely ambivalent Catholics, and actually Muslims. A lot of Muslims.
Right. Yeah.
And some of those were a little more touch and go than others.
Were you allowed to talk to them about the gospel?
I wasn't supposed to in certain areas, right?
Okay.
There were certain areas where the mission president was like, yeah, just don't go here. Because it's just not safe. And then the other thing was, like, let's say you do go in and you baptize the whole family. Well, now they're targeted for violence by possibly their communities.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can be killed for leaving Islam.
Right. So they were just like, yeah, baptism's for the dead, it is.
Because they can't resist or be killed again for it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a weird practice also. It's funny trying to explain that to other Christians. I say other Christians. They wouldn't say that LDS people are Christians.
Right.
I'm just like potato.
It depends on your definition of what Christian is. So.
Yeah, it depends on what you mean.
It really does, though.
It does.
Yeah. But I know what you mean. Like, just the idea of baptism for the dead. Like, for Mormons, it makes sense. For other people, they're like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, if you get into Mormon theology, you don't have to go very deep to understand why that's a thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it seems nice, but then when you really think about it, you realize that it's a whole song and dance that is just completely unnecessary, because whoever gets saved regardless.
Yeah. Because, I mean, God will make it happen if the person deserves it. You don't need that. But that's the thing about the Mormon church, is you need this official ordinance done. Like, the ordinances are a huge thing.
It's very bureaucratic.
Oh, that too. For sure.
Like, even just trying to explain priesthood to people, like, that's one thing that, at least theologically, still kind of makes sense to me. You know, like, not that I think it's real or anything, but, like, it makes sense that not anyone could baptize anyone. But I've had other Christians go, no, that doesn't make sense to me. Why would anyone need permission or authority to do something?
Yeah.
And so anyway.
Yeah, if it's the action itself that matters, then it doesn't matter who's doing it.
Right, and it's whatever I feel in my heart, which is the same way of saying that nobody knows and whatever God knows, so nothing matters. Why did we try any of this? Also, low-key, maybe we don't have free will because God already knows what we're going to do.
Oh, yeah, no, the whole free will thing, that's like a philosophical, that's a thing, you know? There are people who are deep into philosophy and they're like, yeah, we don't have free will. I think Daniel Dennett, one of his books was about that. Or a paper of his. I think that's his area of focus, too. He's one of those, the quote-unquote four horsemen of new atheism, I think is what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, Harris is big into it, too.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone cares, I consider myself a compatibilist, which is to say that, yes, our brains are essentially pre-written machines that are going to do what they're going to do, but the illusion of free will is useful enough that we might as well live as if we have it.
Yeah.
Colton laughs at me because I like to say the phrase "for all intents and purposes" a lot when we discuss these things. It's like the way JP uses "it depends on what you mean."
Uh-huh.
That's my go-to catch-all problem-solving phrase.
Yeah.
You know, just like when people in the LDS church say, you know, God is mysterious, right? Or any church for that matter. They all do that. You know, who knows the mind of God, the will of God, or it will all become clear in time.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very nice way of saying, I don't know, stop asking me.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, and how are your kids? Are they like, whatever, didn't like church anyway, now I get to stay home and do what I want?
Yeah. Yeah, my son never cared for it. My daughter liked it a little bit more, but I think it might have been the socialization.
Right.
My niece is the first one on my side of the family who's getting baptized. That's actually later on today. And so I want my kids to, they're going to Zoom it because not everyone is going to go because it's in Southern California. And so with COVID travel restrictions, and we've already been on a couple of vacations this year anyway, first Utah and then New Hampshire. So we just couldn't make it. But so they're going to be streaming it on Zoom. And so I want my kids to see it. So it's just so they can see, this is what being baptized looks like. And if we went to church, then this is what you probably would have done. So, yeah. Plus we're going to be there just to support my brother and our family.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's one of those things like, parents, I've seen parents ask this question before when it comes to their gay kids. Like, I've been invited to this wedding. It's a gay wedding. I want to support my child, but I don't want to make it seem like I support the action or gay marriage. Like, what do I do? And so it's kind of the same thing. Like, I don't want to make it appear that I approve or that I like baptism into the LDS church, because I really don't. But I'm going to support my family. So, I still love my brother. And so I want to support him and his family's decision. So that's why we're going to tune in. But I also want my kids to see what it looks like. Just to explain, like, hey, this is part of our family's history.
Yeah, I mean, it's even part of your culture, you might say.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the interesting but also maybe terrible things about, Mormonism and maybe other forms of Christianity is that it becomes your culture, but it also supplants whatever culture may have been there.
Huh.
Part of the difficulty in France was saying, okay, this all sounds good, but you asked me to give up wine.
Uh-huh.
And are you insane? Do you know what country you're in right now?
Exactly. Yes.
And I'm like, technically we have better wine in Napa. And they're like, this conversation is over. Yeah, just get out now.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and I don't even, I'm a quarter Mexican. My mom's half Mexican, but nothing about my growing up, I would say, was Mexican culture. So really, it was LDS culture. And right. I guess California culture, whatever that is. Nice weather. I don't know. So yeah, no, LDS is kind of a strong culture, but that's also because it's very consuming. And so, yeah, part of leaving the church, I guess any church really, if you're Catholic, if you're Jewish, if you're Jehovah's Witness, same thing. You have to kind of get in touch with other communities and other cultures around you. It's a shift for sure.
It's a big shift. And the church would not come out and say, like, hey, these things about your culture, they need to go away. And your culture needs to become the LDS church. But there are some practices and beliefs and, let's say, tones that would feel contrary, right? Like the consumption of alcohol is big in a lot of cultures, right? For a lot of purposes. In a few cultures, the consumption of drugs. But for the most part, alcohol's kind of a big deal in a lot of forms.
It is. Yeah. It's not seen as something evil. It's just something that we do. It doesn't mean that everyone walks around drunk all the time. No.
And that's an important distinction.
Well, something else too, like stuff on Sunday. In the Mormon church, you shouldn't watch sports on Sunday. Like the, what was it? So do you remember hearing this in California where Satan was trying hard to destroy the family because when Family Home Evening was instituted for Monday nights, then that's when Monday Night Football became a thing.
Yes, correlation and not causation has never been a strong point among LDS people.
Because I heard that growing up, and I don't know, you were in Southern California at the time, but do you remember hearing that? Was that like a California thing?
It was never like a "Thus saith the Lord" kind of thing, but always,
but it was said in church.
One of those like ensign, faith promoting, fortune cookie Mormonism, right? If you will.
Yeah.
Because there was always the, faith promoting rumor thing in the latest issue of the Ensign version of Mormonism versus, okay, here's what Bruce R. McConkie says is the actual doctrine.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think anyone upstairs was like Monday Night Football is of the devil.
No, but like it was more of a local kind of rumor type thing.
Some Relief Society president somewhere who was irritated at her husband
who liked to watch football.
Who liked to watch football, wrote it in an article, and it got passed. It was probably Sherry Dew. It was probably her.
Yeah, she was a big thing a while ago. Yeah. But even something simple like that, if part of what your extended family perhaps likes to do is, sit around on Sunday or Monday night and watch football. Like as a Mormon, you're not really supposed to do that. And so it's, like when it comes to Mormon culture, because there's so much that's controlled, there's so much you're supposed to do and that you're not supposed to do. And just throughout the week, it takes up so much of your time that it's hard to kind of incorporate other parts of your culture into it. You can certainly do it, but there's a lot about the LDS Church specifically that is very time consuming. And they've got all those rules too. Yeah,
and that's so obnoxious. And then what do you fill it with? You're supposed to, like, I guess, pray and read. You self-indoctrinate, right? Once a week, you're supposed to spend the day. And it's so boring. It's so difficult to do that.
Yeah, like you end up taking a nap just so that you don't have to, like, sit and read scriptures all day. Ugh. I took a lot of Sunday naps.
I can't get my kids to sit down and watch the Croods in one sitting, like much less read a book that they can't even understand.
Uh-huh. Oh, but they have those little like book and tape versions.
This was one thing that was kind of hard for a while is that, my kids had some of the like little kid versions of the Book of Mormon and stuff.
Yeah.
And during story time, they'd ask me to read it.
Oh, did you?
No.
Okay.
I told them, you have like 5,000 books. Please pick another.
Anything else?
But my kids they dig in their heels. Like when they want something, they want something. But I was just like, I'm not reading. And so they just had to get used to it. Now, at this point, my son and eldest daughter, they don't need it in their life. They don't care about it. Mm-hmm.
Is your other daughter too young to really care anyway?
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't know, but she does know that when you sit around the table for dinner, you're supposed to pray.
Oh, okay.
And so when we go to my parents' house, it's a little bit awkward now because she'll prompt it. Uh-huh. She'll want to start it. And, my wife and I are just kind of like, well, we don't want to like ruffle feathers, I guess.
Yeah.
And we just let them go through the ritual. And my wife says, it's good to be grateful for things. And
sure. Wait, is she like becoming atheist as well?
That's a little more in the air, but I think we're leaning that way.
Okay. Because like she's totally done with the church now, but like the actual God existing thing, that's a whole nother question.
It is a whole other question, but I think, I don't know. Well, for me, it was easy to get there. And I've been espousing it for a while now. And so for her, I think that she's more agnostic if we want to make the distinction.
Okay.
And she just wants to say that she doesn't know and maybe she can't know.
Yeah, that's agnostic. That's fine.
And that's fine. But, she's not praying. She's not doing any of that stuff anymore. So
okay.
It's just a thing where they're all sure that Joseph Smith was a fraud.
Okay.
Because even a cursory glance will show that.
Yeah, they're ready to see that now.
They're ready to see that. But, in terms of the God question, I'll say this. I think that the LDS Church does a good job of making sure that you believe that other churches are false.
Oh, absolutely. They absolutely do that.
For me, it was, leaving the LDS Church made it very difficult for me to even consider any other religion because again, they show you how silly they all are.
Well, they say they have some light and truth, but the LDS Church has all the light and truth.
That's right. which is just a condescending way of saying that they're wrong.
Yeah, or that the LDS Church is just better, more enlightened. Ugh.
Right, and I remember feeling like I was more enlightened, better educated than my peers when it came to religious discussions. And, I probably was, but just because they had zero, as opposed to some, I had no idea what I was really talking about. I just was just saying, like, oh, I go to church once a week and I do seminary in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so, other kids don't do that.
Early morning indoctrination? No, they don't.
So it's pretty easy when you're in high school to win religious debate arguments because literally no one knows anything.
Oh, and you start off every day with a scripture lesson. So that's already kind of fresh in your mind.
Yeah. So that's pretty easy. But once you become an adult and you meet other people whose entire life is devoted to theology or apologetics or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Or philosophy.
Or philosophy, all of a sudden those discussions become, a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
They become a lot more meaningful. But
then you realize just how little you actually know.
Yeah. And you just, like, wow, the LDS Church didn't even answer basic questions about why it was important that God existed.
Yeah.
As opposed to just jumping right into the presumption that God exists.
Yeah.
And just skipping over the first cause argument. I mean, they kind of talk about it a little bit in the Book of Mormon. But, like, I had no idea what an ontological argument was until doing this show.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a long time to understand, like the top 5 basic arguments that you're going to hear from religious apologists.
Yeah. Yeah. And we covered that when we covered the God delusion.
Because Mormonism assumes that you're already essentially Christian and then wants you to accept that there has been a patch update to religion.
That's right, yeah.
Like if Judaism is patch 1.0 and Christianity is the second, it's more of a sequel game. And it's like Destiny 2, right? And then like Mormonism is like the new patch. It's a big patch update, but it's essentially still 2.0.
Uh-huh.
It's like 2.5.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's what it aims to be. And so it treats other religions as, hey, they tried their best, but ultimately they weren't guided by revelation.
Uh-huh.
And then you question that revelation when you get into questions like blacks in the priesthood and polygamy.
Uh-huh.
It's like, really, at no point, no one foresaw that this was going to be an awkward conversation in the future, that this was going to make conversion efforts basically impossible, the internet connections would exist.
Nope, just a bunch of guys just kind of doing their thing. Yeah. So you and your wife are even more on the same page than you were like a month ago.
Yeah, things have moved very quickly.
Uh-huh.
And I'm grateful for it. I was, part of me was afraid of like, oh, well, she realized now that she doesn't have much use for me, right?
Oh.
That was a thought I've had.
Yeah.
But things have gotten probably better, I'd say, marriage-wise. Things have, we've connected more. She still doesn't really want to get into the philosophy questions a whole lot. She doesn't really want to dig deep. But, she's rolling her eyes at me less, let's say. And that's a big win.
Yeah. Oh, boy. It's progress.
Yes. I'm humored less. And that's nice.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, that speaking more freely, like I don't want to get too personal, but
No, that's fine.
We're able to speak a lot more freely about a lot of different topics.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not needing to hide as much.
Okay.
And that is so freeing in a marriage relationship to just be totally open and say, these are, some of my interests, and these are things I think about and care about. And to have the other person go, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, and if she's never interested in the philosophy stuff, that's okay. If she just doesn't like to think about that, not for religious reasons, but just like interest-wise, yeah.
Yeah, I don't need her to ever really go down that road, but I would like it if she was at least familiar with it so she doesn't get bamboozled by somebody. But
like into a different religion type of thing?
Right.
Uh-huh.
But on the other hand, I think she's ambivalent enough that it won't ever matter. But
okay.
I think there's also people that are uncomfortable with the I don't know as an answer.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people like that, if we push back far enough, eventually the atheist will probably say something to the effect of, we don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, how was the universe created? The Big Bang. Okay, well, how was the Big Bang created? How was that little, dense sphere of stuff? Where did that come from? And we push far enough, we're going, hey, we're learning things about it, but we still don't really know. I don't have a definitive answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a lot of people that profess to be atheists, they're more okay with that answer. And I think a lot of religious people just aren't all right with that. They can't accept, I don't know, for an answer.
Yeah. Well, if they're used to thinking that they're getting answers, either from their preacher or from praying or from the scriptures, then having no answer is hard to deal with.
Right. And I think it does come from a strong desire to have the universe make sense.
Sure.
To bring order to the galaxy, you might say.
Yeah.
Whereas there is not as much order in the galaxy as we might like. And I think that is a difficult truth to look in the face, to say that, my life only has meaning in as much as I think it does. But there's nothing outside of me that says that it is.
Yeah.
Or my immediate people that care about me, right? Like caring is entirely in our minds. And that's not a fun thing to think about. But are you willing to accept the truth that the universe is a dark, cold place that doesn't care about you? And so if you want there to be warmth and light, you have to make it happen.
It puts a lot of power back in your own hands, I would say.
It does. And I think that you can react to it either as wow, that really empowers me, versus wow, that makes me feel really powerless.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that might even just come down to personality type at that point.
That could be.
The way Jonathan Haidt thinks about, liberals and conservatives and where their thought processes come from.
Yeah.
And what kind of personality you have would help determine your politics.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I shared my some of Jonathan Haidt's research with my politics class.
Oh, yeah. How'd that go?
They hated him.
Oh, why?
One of them called him a hack. I think that the more conservative leaning students I had felt attacked.
Really?
Whereas I thought that he was really extending an olive branch, and a little bit of credit where most people wouldn't give any, but they felt like he was basically saying that educated people are liberal, which is way too reductionist, right? But I find that a lot of people, not just teenagers, they want to boil things down.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's a natural desire,
Yeah.
Because, sometimes things can just be too complex to think about all at once. And so, it does help to reduce things down. But sometimes you can take it too far. And, you can end up getting rid of nuance where you need it.
Indeed.
Yep. So how is school going?
Oh, God.
Like, it's done. You're done for the year anyway, for the 2020.
For 2020, yeah. So coming back 2021, it looks like we'll still be in hybrid mode, which means that half the students will be in the class and the other half will be online at the same time.
Right.
Which is a not fun thing to juggle.
Nope.
But it gets better results than a fully online system.
Okay.
But we may have no choice to move completely online partway through.
Really? Again?
Yes. If we hit certain benchmark numbers, then, at least according to the governor, then we have to close.
Okay.
But we have been very close to that threshold for a long, long time. So I don't really know how this quarter is going to look, but I have a good idea of how it's going to start. And education is definitely suffering. Because I know that what we're going through is a small sample of what the entire country is going through. And students are very much struggling during this time. They are children, and they need social interaction with each other. They need them with adult figures as well. And they need a lot of that interaction to be in a physical meet space.
Mm-hmm.
Because the process of technological change is far faster than evolutionary change.
Oh, yeah.
And we are basically still apes that need to talk to each other to be happy. And what we're seeing with a lot of these kids is mass depression.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that it's going to get better until we decide to live in a free society again.
Yeah.
And right now, that's not what we're choosing.
It depends on the state, too. Texas is fairly open. I think there are still some things that are closed. You'd still have to do, like, social distancing stuff, and but depending on the city and whatnot. But no, like, Texas is doing better than I realized. Because most of my news feed is filled with stuff about California. You know, a lot of my family and friends still live in California, so I'm getting... And the Babylon Bee. They do stuff about California all the time. But... you know, so I was like, you know what? I need to stop looking at California stuff and look at how Texas is doing. So I looked it up and, you know, Texas is actually doing pretty good. It's doing pretty well. But no, I agree. You know, teenagers and young adults, a lot of them are suffering from depression. And if you've suffered from depression, you know what it's like. You know how bad it is. If you haven't suffered from it before, it's hard to be empathetic. But... you know, suffering from depression is a serious thing. And, you know, it has led to suicides, as has the unemployment.
And now we're talking about, you know, these stimulus checks that are coming out. They're like $600. And of course,
right,
$600 is a very cold comfort to someone who's lost a business.
Yeah. It's cold comfort to everybody. All the liberals who I've seen comment about it on Facebook, they're like, this is a slap in the face. And I'm like, you're right.
It is. But
you're right.
on the alternative, if you give everybody too much, then you inflate currency and you hurt everyone.
Yeah.
And so you have to be really careful about this. You know, I think it would have been better to leave these things open to individual businesses to mandate. I mean, for my part, and I realize I'm in a very small minority for this, but you know, I think it would have been better to allow this disease to pass over and to accept death on a large scale. Mm. And that is not popular, and it's easy for me to say because I likely would have lived through it, and my children would have likely lived through it. Mm-hmm. I was more or less okay with this idea of helping flatten the curve so that we could manage resources, we could manage hospital stays.
Yeah, that was back in March.
You know, but it is transformed into something else. And
entirely.
You know, and the government does not want to let a good crisis go to waste, and they've been able to profit from this in terms of their own power. Yeah.
Well, Rand Paul, you know, he has been voicing his disagreement with all this stuff. And, you know, with the stimulus check, this most recent bill that's going through, I don't know if Trump vetoed it or not. But he was saying, you know, this isn't the answer. By the federal government giving money to the states, it's encouraging or incentivizing the states to keep everyone in lockdown. Because they don't have to rely on income tax for their money. They're getting money from the federal government. And Rand Paul's thing is open the states back up. Federal government, Congress, stop giving money to the states. We're making the problem worse. And that the answer is to open the market back up everywhere. I mean, he can't do anything about that because it is on a state-by-state basis. But the answer is to open up the economy. Let businesses do their thing. If they want to social distance, require masks, fine, but let them open back up.
Yeah, give them the chance, give them the choice to try to adapt. And it's also a good test for them. If they can't adapt, then they can go the way of the dinosaurs.
Which has happened.
But at least we would have fewer businesses that were dying out. Because having a business fail is not uncommon.
No, it happens a lot.
It happens a lot. But unilaterally telling entire industries that they can no longer exist. Mm-hmm. Like, you see what's become a film and theater going.
Yeah.
And it's horrifying that, number one, we ever got to a point where we decided that movies were not an essential, whatever that means. Yeah. As if culture wasn't important.
Yeah. Well, a lot of Southern California has been forcibly shut down, except for the film industry. They're still allowed to operate, and they are. So, at least California sees the value of Hollywood.
Well, I hope that California does, of all places.
They do. I mean, I think Hollywood's a cesspool. I wouldn't mind if it went away, but that's just me.
Yes, it's a physically undesirable place.
Yeah. I mean, I think Hollywood's a cult.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. I've thought a lot about that. As I was reading about cults and stuff, I was like, Hollywood is a cult. They lure people in with promises of fame and wealth and happiness, but when you get there, there's sexual abuse everywhere. Mm-hmm. You're treated poorly. You're controlled if you become a big star. The paparazzi follow you everywhere. Just hearing what Jennifer Lawrence has gone through, like when she goes to visit her family, her sister and whatnot, they put, I think she was saying, like, for Christmas, they put black garbage bags on the windows so the paparazzi can't see into the house. And they put bubble wrap on the driveway so that they can hear if a car pulls into their driveway so they know that if the paparazzi's out there or not. Like, Jennifer Lawrence, I'm almost positive, did not know any of that would happen when she tried out in Hollywood, but that's, people like, oh, well, you signed up for that. You knew what you were getting into. It's like, no, you didn't. People don't know that's what they're getting into when they go to Hollywood. So, yeah, I think Hollywood's a cult. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, they produce good stuff. Jennifer Lawrence, I think she is a good actress. She's done some good movies, but, I do think just as an organization, I think it's a cult.
I'm not sure I 100% agree, but I get your I get where you're coming from. I think, I'm not gonna outright disagree because I feel like I would want to sit with that one. Mm-hmm. But I do like movies.
Yes, I know.
And I think that movies are an important part of. They're an important part of our shared experience. And I think that maybe TV can supplant that to an extent. And maybe in the long run, I will say that Hollywood is often, let's say, cartel-ish in that you have to be kind of on the in.
Definitely. To
get anywhere. And I'm wondering if, streaming services are helping us sort of break that a little bit and provide alternatives. We can also work with our messaging a little bit. I think about right now what our shared experiences are. And I think that we look at Avengers Endgame not as high cinema, and maybe it's not, but at the same time, Endgame was this thing that everybody saw and everybody could talk about. And and I think that's important. Back in the 80s, everybody saw the end of Cheers. Oh. And it was a thing that they could all discuss. Everybody saw the end of Seinfeld in the 90s.
And the end of, what was that one about the mob gangsters?
Oh, The Sopranos.
Yes. Yeah. People saw the end of that one too.
A lot of people were connected over Game of Thrones. They were also connected over their disappointment on how Game of Thrones ended.
And then it went away.
And it just like evaporated overnight.
It disappeared. That was so weird.
It's actually insane how crazy that has been.
Yeah. I wonder if it would have stuck around more in the zeitgeist, I suppose, if they had ended it well. But they ended it so disappointingly, and then it just kind of, it went away. It's like it never happened, except for an occasional meme here and there.
Right, yeah. Everyone's like, oh yeah, Daenerys. Yeah, I remember. That was the thing.
Yeah.
Cared about a lot and then didn't.
Yeah. Very strange.
It was I mean, that is how you ruin a show. I mean, that is how you kill a genre overnight. You know, you want, like, we should really study that last season. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But right now, I think the big shared experience is The Mandalorian and how season 2 ended.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people were happy about it.
Yeah, a lot of people are happy about it. I'm definitely super happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that show.
Yeah, I saw your Facebook post.
Yeah, and I was very thrilled. But, you know, it was also just a thing that everybody saw, and almost anyone that you talk to has seen it.
Yeah.
And there's a magic there, a community that exists there that we need. And, you know, this is something that they discussed in that 4 Horsemen video that we watched.
Uh-huh.
With Dan Dennett and Sam Harris and Hitchens and Dawkins.
Uh-huh.
Is that they were like, well, what do we do now about community? What do we do now about a sense of ritual and of together culture? Now that we're giving up church, how do we still gather?
Yeah.
And how do we still engage in a shared community? And it seemed to me that that was still something that was very important to all of them, that they all recognized as something that was now missing.
Yes.
And I think that films, to an extent, provide at least a small taste of that.
Mm.
And I really don't think that we should underestimate the value of culture that the majority of the populace experiences together.
Yeah, there is some value in that.
So I don't know what to replace church, though, with on a fuller level. I think the answer is Dungeons and Dragons.
I've still been listening to your podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still entertaining.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I joke, but at the same time, like, I think that something like Dungeons and Dragons is really important. I think it's, you know, maybe it's a different board game or something, but I think it's important for families to do something together.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important for you to have adult friends that you do something with.
Agreed.
And even during COVID times, it's like, you can't treat that, in my opinion, as a frivolous, non-essential. I think it is essential.
Yes.
I think when suicide rates are what they are, I think we have to recognize that our mental well-being is an essential factor of our lives.
Yeah.
And I think that it is foolish to put our physical health above our mental and social health.
Yeah.
Especially when we need to accept that death is an inevitable end for all of us. So the question is how do you want to live until that point? And if we don't have the choice on how to live until that point, then all we're doing is not dying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how that's valuable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm kind of cynical about the government. I think they're just using physical health as an excuse. But no, well, I'm starting homeschooling my kids.
Wow.
I have officially pulled them out of school. And starting next month, in just a few days, I'm going to be homeschooling my kids. And
now, is that for their physical safety, or is it for...
No.
Because you do not...
It's for their emotional, mental well-being.
Okay.
Because, there was a case of COVID in my daughter's class, and so the whole class had to go to virtual learning. And my daughter hates it. And the beginning of the school year, like the first 4 to 6 weeks, I think, they were virtual learning. And so when they first came back to physical school, for like the first month, every day when I'd pick up my daughter, she'd be like, "Mom, can we homeschool?" I was like, oh boy.
Well, that's big if a child asks for it.
Yeah, and she asked for it almost every single day after school.
Wow.
And so,
at least she likes you. That's good.
Yeah. No, and she's very excited about homeschooling too. I was weighing this heavily for so long, like ever since March, basically. But, I finally wrote out a pros and cons list, both for homeschooling and the kids being at school. And looking at the list, the pros for homeschool outweighed both the cons of homeschool and the pros of going to school. So,
wow.
So, there's been just a lot. I've been moving things around the house because I'm turning one of the bedrooms into the classroom. So I've been like gathering materials and just kind of mentally preparing because, that's a big part of it too. I got to just get ready for this. But I've also been looking up Facebook groups for homeschoolers and for unschoolers. That's a thing too. And so I've joined a group and I've just been looking through and seeing ideas that people have, if they've got groups like play groups or, different buildings around our city, like, hey, this is open and this park is open. This stuff's going on. So I've been doing research for that too, because the social thing is huge. Like I need to find some kind of a group where my kids can make friends, because that's the one thing, I think. It's the one thing that school can offer that I can't, is the socialization. So I've been looking into that too, just who's around here that's also homeschooling or doing the unschooling thing. And what can I get my kids into?
That's good.
But that's for their mental, largely for their mental and emotional well-being. Because my son doesn't like the virtual either.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't think any kid does for the most part that isn't like essentially agoraphobic. This is not for kids.
No.
What are some of the things that are on that pro-con list?
Oh, let's see. I've got it here somewhere. Let's see. I have a pretty binder for myself. This is my treat to myself for homeschooling. Because I'm like, I need something. So the pros for homeschooling for me, there's like 20 of them. I have control of the schedule. Because right now, school at, their school, it's like 7 hours long. And in my personal opinion, 7 hours is too long to be in school.
Sure.
I think it's more to accommodate working parents than for the benefit of the kids. So I get to control the schedule, and we're probably going to have between 3 to 5 hours a day, something like that. I can tailor the lessons to my kids' needs. We can go on vacations at will. I don't have to check in with the school, I hate that. I hate having to check in. It feels like they're my parent or something. I can give my kids all the recess time that they need. Because right now, not only do they have 7 hours of school, but they have few recesses and they're short, which is like the opposite of what it should be. So I can give my kids plenty of recess time, and we're going to go outside to do it. The biggest meal of the day can now be lunch instead of dinner. That'll be nice just for our physical health.
Okay, yeah.
No worries about school shootings.
Oh, that is a good one.
Mm-hmm. That hasn't been in the news for a while because of COVID. But, past couple of years, past 2 or 3 years, that's been a concern of mine.
Oh, yeah.
I can teach math better.
Oh, wow. Laying it down now.
Yeah. Like the kids.
Because you don't do Common Core.
No. Texas doesn't. So Texas never opted into Common Core. So don't have to worry about that. But when my kids were doing the virtual learning back earlier this year, back in like April or May, my daughter had a math program. And some of the problems that she did, I looked at it and I was like, that's wrong. Not that she was doing it wrong, but all the answers to the problem were wrong. And so I was like, it should be D, none of the above, because they just did it wrong. So anyway, I can teach math better. I can include more electives. So stuff that my kids like. So dancing, soccer, cooking, all that fun type of stuff. We could have regular field trips. My kids really wanted to do it. That was a big one. The fact that my daughter's asking, Mom, can we homeschool? That's huge.
Yeah, that is really huge.
Yeah. The kids don't have to wear masks all day. This is just personal stuff for me. I don't have to deal with other drivers. Because people here, they don't pay attention. I've almost gotten hit so many times.
Are they as bad as Utah drivers?
No. Utah's worse.
Utah's still the worst place.
It's still worse.
It's so bad.
Yeah. Yep. I don't have to be flooded with texts and emails from the school anymore. And, so there's fun stuff that the community does. They've got like recreation classes and stuff, library stuff. We can now do that during the day, like during this normal school day. So I don't have to wait till after school to sign them up for stuff. Right. So I can weave that into the homeschooling curriculum. So there's a few other things on the list, but that was the major thing. That's the major stuff.
So are you planning on having like a strict schedule once you get going? Because it sounds like a lot of the benefits have to do with not being strict.
Yeah.
But if you don't stick to a routine, do you think that'll be confusing for the kids?
Yes.
And 2, do you think that would be demotivating for you? It'd be too easy to let things slide.
Well, all of that.
Okay.
All of it. So no, it's like looking at the Facebook group. It's an unschooling group. So they don't even have I don't even think they do class times. I don't know. But it's kind of adjusted my thinking. I don't need to replace the school's way of teaching. I don't need to have a day and cover 6 or 7 subjects. I don't have to do that. I have more flexibility. That's part of what this whole mental preparation thing is I have to think of what I want the schedule to look like. It's going to be fewer classes, fewer subjects a day, but I still want to have them on the same day. So spelling and reading will be on one day, and then math and science on the next day, and then something and something. So I do still have to have a schedule because, the kids need that routine. And they need to know what to expect. So I'm still going to have a schedule. It's just not going to be as strict as a school's schedule would be. So I'm going to work in community stuff, swimming lessons, dance lessons, that type of thing. So it's both. It's a relaxed schedule, but still a schedule.
But at the same time, even with the relaxation, it sounds like a tremendous undertaking for you.
It is. It is. I never, ever wanted to be a teacher. When thinking about, all the careers I could choose, all the jobs I could have, I never wanted to be a teacher.
Right.
But I really do think that this will be the best for my kids. And so I'm willing to wake up earlier than I usually do. That's going to suck. I'm a night owl. You know this. I'm a night owl. And yes. I don't think that's going to change. So we'll see.
Sometimes I get my Lisa message at midnight, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to bed. Good night.
And I'm like, yeah, wide awake here. That's true.
We'll get to this later and then probably forget.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it will be hard on me. I don't like sticking to a rigid schedule. It feels too constricting to me, but that is what my kids are going to need. And so I will do that. And I will wake up early. I'll try to be chipper. I won't be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed because I'm not a morning person, but I'll make it work because I really do think this is what's going to be best for my kids and for our family overall.
Well, good on you. That's a huge undertaking, and I think that it's going to be really challenging, but that you have their best interest in mind, I think is huge. I
really do. Yeah. So, and I'm going to have to find some other way of getting my quiet time because I am an introvert. And so, I'm not energized by being around people. I relax, rejuvenate, get my energy back when I'm just alone and it's quiet.
Well, the kids might do a better job of leaving you alone once they've kind of had their fill of you, right?
I'm hoping so. That's part of the plan. Maybe now they'll want to go out in the backyard and play. I'm going to encourage them to do that. Get out there. It's not blazing hot. It's not raining. Get out there and play.
That's right. I notice that my children will come in with incessant little demands and questions.
Mm-hmm.
And what it really leads to is, I need you to spend time with me. And then if I just go out and do it, then usually in an hour, they're ready to abandon me. You know?
They're like, oh, that was our fill. We're good.
Yeah,
Thanks,
and
Dad.
they get their fill. Yeah, exactly. And they're good to go.
Yeah. And my kids do like spending time with me. And when they get a bit older, I'm going to make my husband teach them a class on finance. So
there you go.
Finance, basic accounting, all that stuff.
Good. Your economics teacher. Well, but that is a question though. Like, what are you going to do when you get to high school and this stuff becomes a little bit more intense?
I'm going to be reading the textbooks.
Okay.
I'm going to be finding textbooks that I think are good, and I will be reading those things. And then, cover to cover, and then I'll be teaching the kids the lessons from them. So there are things that I cannot teach them, though, like coding. If they want to work with computers, I don't know that.
What about like higher level math, like trig or whatever?
I can do that too.
Oh, you can do that? Okay, awesome.
Yeah. I took calculus in college, and I actually loved it. So I'm fine with all that. Math is covered, but things like things like science or computer stuff. No, like biology's fine. Chemistry, not so much. Physics, my husband's got that one covered, no problem. So no, we'll make it work.
Because I imagine they'll still need some sort of formal document saying that they've been educated, and that's going to have certain requirements, I assume.
Not for Texas. No.
No, I mean, how do they apply for college?
Colleges are expected to treat a homeschooled child as if they have a high school diploma.
Right.
So community college, So another plus actually about homeschooling is if my kids show an interest in college, they can start taking college classes at like 16 or 17. And then if they want to go on to a 4-year university, they just have to have a 1.5 to 2 years of community college. And then things like SAT scores don't matter. SAT, ACT, you don't have to take any of that if you've gone to community college. So, yeah, that's part of my plan is if they want to do higher education stuff, we can sign them up for community college early so they can start taking those classes.
Well, that's good at least.
Yeah. And there are community colleges around here and trade schools too. Mm-hmm. That as well. Yep. Oh, my daughter and I, we were watching some videos about tiny houses. Tiny houses. They're so cute. But so, I was watching it and my daughter's like, what's that? And so I showed her and she's like, whoa, that's so cool. Just seeing the way that people have worked with their small space. And so she and I actually went out into the living room and she's like, I want to see what we could do. So I was like, all right, let's go. So I went to the living room and she's like, we could have the beds here and we could have the computers over there and a little tiny kitchen over here. And I was like, don't forget, we can also go up. And so she's like, ooh. And so we're like, so she was planning her little space. And I was like, how about this? You learn how to do carpentry work. I'll learn how to do electrician stuff. My son can learn how to do plumber stuff, and my husband can finance the whole thing. He can continue to do the finances. So, yeah, and my daughter, she thought that was fine. We can build our own house from the ground up and take care of it all.
There you go. That's cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, it would be nice to have kids go to school and learn actual skills because,
yes.
I bring up things like trig and stuff, but I know that stuff's so frustrating for children because they don't feel like they came away with a survival skill, right? And
That's
they
right.
think that for the large part, what we want to do is come away saying, if I were on my own, I could live.
Yeah. Yeah. Do I have skills or knowledge? Can I do stuff? Yeah. And so I want my kids to be able to do stuff.
And that provides two big challenges to a formal school. One is cost, because even teaching kids how to cook is like a tremendous cost. And then the other big one is liability, which again kind of gets you back to cost, but it's another thing. It's like, okay, can we have home ec? No. Why? Because there's fire, there's heat, there's knives, there's forks.
And there's the supply. The teachers have to supply all the ingredients.
Yeah. And so like versus trig class where it's like, okay, buy me a set of calculators and end of list.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no, I guess theoretically a kid could get hit in the head with a calculator, but we're covered on that. Right? Like, as opposed to giving a kid a steak knife. Right?
Yeah. Or like metal shop, or wood shop where you risk getting a limb cut off, finger, whatever. There's some risk to that too.
And this will all be easier for you on the more micro scale. I have 2 students
yes.
as opposed to, 20 to 40.
That's right. Yeah. And so, yeah, I can seriously tailor the lessons to my kids, their level, their speed, their interests.
I wonder if you could collaborate with other homeschool teachers and and like specialize in various subjects.
Yeah, there are some families who do that. The kids will go to one house and they'll be taught math. They'll go to another house the next day and be taught spelling and dance, that type of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, there are families that do that. So I have to find them. Oh, but when I withdrew my kids, what really helped too was I got an email from this one website that I went through, this Texas homeschooling website. And once I had gotten my kids out of the school, they sent me like this little packet it's not a packet, it was an email, a PDF. It's like 20 pages or something. But it's like, here's how you can get started. And so they had some good advice and they listed some good resources too, like look for homeschoolers in your area. The information's out there. You do have to look for it, but yeah, if you want to do homeschool, it is possible. Look up your state's requirements because every state's different. But yeah, it's doable.
And I know that like Tom Woods and like Ron Paul have their own like, or maybe it's the same education system, same home education system. Basically, it's a good place to do your government and econ if you want.
Yeah.
Though I'm not sure if it does much beyond those 2 subjects.
I'm not sure. I've seen the Ron Paul homeschool one before. I'm not Tom Woods, but I haven't looked into it. But yeah, it's there, and you're definitely going to get a good, probably political, maybe economic education from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's worth checking out too.
Yeah,
is your wife...
For the high school level, it'll be great.
Definitely.
She's not very interested in doing it. We've talked about it a lot. But she's probably right about this, she doesn't feel like she would stick to it as like a regimen.
Okay.
She's very much a follower. She needs someone else to be the boss and tell her what to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so if left to her own devices, recess will go from a half-hour break to a 3-hour thing to the day's over.
Yeah. Maybe some reading here and there.
And I think that's something she's worried about. And there are days where she's gung-ho and can stay focused, but she does struggle with that.
Yeah.
We've batted around the idea that maybe I should stay home and maybe she should go do something.
Oh.
Which I don't love that idea, but at the same time, like, I know I would run the ship pretty well for the kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and you've been a teacher for 10 years, so you have the experience.
I do. I mean, it would be a different beast in some ways, but I know I understand the art of delivering information and having someone practice that information.
And you could bring your creativity into it. Because that was something you didn't like about schooling, like formal schooling, is that when you're teaching to the tests, you can't really bring in your own creativity. Something you said in one of the podcast episodes you did recently with Andrew, you said that a lot of teaching is an art.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. There is kind of there's an art to it. There's a creativity to it. And so, yeah, I mean, if you were to homeschool your kids, you could get creative.
Yeah, because there's definitely a difference between being able to read and to teach reading, right? Like, those are 2 different bears. And I think part of where I get apprehensive is I'm not good at math.
Uh-huh.
And I think that when we got to those subjects, it would be a serious struggle.
Okay.
But, furthermore, right now, I my teaching job is what pays the bills and and gets us health insurance. And that's really kind of what matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's definitely something that we have thought about a lot.
Mm-hmm. Is it still on the table?
Not really. No.
Okay.
we've talked about running like a small business.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is an amazing baker.
That's right.
And I feel like we would make at least as much money hawking bread.
Yeah. You know what? She could host a cooking class.
Well, she could. I don't know if she likes the idea of teaching, although she's really not bad at it.
Okay.
She's not bad at teaching at all. I've seen her do Sunday school at least. And, her students always really liked her. She has this very humble and unassuming way of dealing with people that's very inviting to them. And, whereas I can be a little bit more heavy-handed. But her biggest critic is definitely herself. And so the stress of preparation is difficult for her to deal with.
Okay.
And so there's that. But we thought of this idea, and you can tell me if you think it stinks. I think it'd be cool if we did like an ice cream truck, but instead of ice cream, you have like baked goods, like bread.
Oh, how fun.
And I was thinking like coffee and stuff, like basically like
geared towards the adults.
Yeah, like it's for the stay-at-home moms, right? Like you drive around town and you don't play like the creepy music. You play, I don't know, what's something middle-aged moms like?
I don't know.
Michael Bolton, I don't know.
Oh, there you go. Oh, lovely.
And I just play that coming down the street and some George Michael something, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they just come out and we sell them, mom stuff.
Yeah.
Like, here's your latte and here's your bread, your artisanal bread, right?
But dads too, because a lot of people are working from home now, if they can. That's
true.
Yeah, dads good. So have a mix of like Michael Bolton and like, I don't know, Pink Floyd. There you go.
Yeah, some Pink Floyd.
Do it. No, that'd be fun.
So I think that'd be a good business. I don't know how legal it would be. We'd have to probably get like 1 billion licenses.
You'd have to get permits. Yeah, you would.
I think it would be. I think it would do okay. People would come outside and it would let them come outside for a minute and not have to go to Starbucks or order DoorDash. Right.
That's right. Yeah.
You also get that splurge buy aspect. Like, well, it's here and I've got some cash.
And I still think she should sell cakes. Like, just custom order cakes. Because she does amazing looking cakes.
Oh, yeah. She could totally do that. That wouldn't be part of the drive-by thing, but we could hand out like an application or something. And let people fill it out and go to the website, whatever.
Yeah.
And that could be really cool. I low-key just want to do that at this point.
Yeah. Well, start off looking into what it would take to do it. So like what kind of licenses you'd have to get, what kind of vehicle, how much that would cost, that type of thing. So look into like just all the legality things and then, see if that's something that would be worth the hassle.
Yeah, it would definitely be worth the hassle. But on the other hand, having a little truck is so much more efficient than having like a brick and mortar place of business, like just not paying rent costs is huge.
Yep. And you can take the things to them. So, you travel around, you'll probably get more customers because you're going to them.
So, yeah. I don't know if it's a get rich idea. It's more of a sustain ourselves while still enjoying our lives idea.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm sustaining us, but like definitely COVID learning is unenjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't like it. You're not enjoying it.
It's not fulfilling.
Right.
I have a couple of coworkers that I've been hearing a lot of murmurs. Pretty sure some of them are going to drop.
Do you think after the school year or like in December?
Basically we just got to get it to about the end of May and then we're done. But it's going to feel long. I mean, this last quarter felt so long. Like it just wouldn't end. And every day felt like a week. And then like I would just break in my brain to write these lesson plans that would basically fill time and B, get them ready for their exams, only to have them not turn in the work and then fail the exam.
Oh.
And it was, I mean, the majority of my kids passed, but a lot more didn't than in previous years. And I gave out more Fs this last quarter than I think I ever have combined.
Oof.
And that was with me really trying to give them a lot of grace, excusing like tons of assignments, bending my curves a little bit, and just doing calling their house and just being like, hey, mom, dad, this is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Help me out. Sitting down and having one-on-one conversations with them to try to wake them up, and just really trying to do this and then to have it just not work out,
Yeah.
because I'm fighting a battle that is beyond my pay grade.
Yeah. Yeah. You're basically battling depression. You're battling someone else's depression.
Which I am not qualified to deal with.
No. And it's on a wide scale too. So no,
yeah.
I'm glad you're doing as much as you can, but there is only so much you can do.
Yeah. So I'll make a small difference in lots of people's lives, and you'll make a massive difference in 2 people's lives, and that'll be great.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah. But what should education look like in the libertarian utopia? It's like, well, that's the fun. We don't know, because we don't know what to tell you what to do.
Yeah, it's what your family needs. And that could be unschooling, it could be, a rigid homeschool schedule. Yeah, that is the beauty of it, is it's really up to you.
Yeah. The libertarianism slowly plotting to take over the world and leave you alone.
Oh, I wish.
Classic meme.
Yeah.
Just kidding, we can't take over Jack.
No. All we can try and do is chip away at authoritarianism. That's just trying.
It's about what we got.
Yeah. Well, I do want to end my little bit on a high. Justin Amash, a few days ago, he proposed a bill that would get rid of civil asset forfeiture at the federal level.
That's good.
So he's retiring after his term. He didn't run for another term, so he's done after this. But he's still fighting.
Good on Justin Amash. I wish he had a little bit more, like, let's say, leadership machismo. Just a little bit of that dragon energy that Kanye West talks about, as far as getting as close to like a pure libertarian in Congress, he's the best we have.
Rand Paul's pretty good too.
Yeah, and Rand Paul's pretty good. Yeah, we have to take what victories we can, and I think that the play at this point is to try to run them as Republicans and Democrats, and go ahead and let the Libertarian Party probably go the way of the dinosaurs.
Maybe.
At least that's what the people on the Lions of Liberty podcast have recommended, and I tend to agree. So,
yeah,
anyway.
Well, the Republican Party is split right now. It's split between those who just want to be Republicans and those who are like for Trump. So,
yeah,
that's been really interesting to see that happen. But I think a few other Republicans have left the Republican Party because of this whole Trump stuff. So,
well, I think it's a devastating blow to lose a re-election campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Republicans are really going to have to reassess what Republicanism is.
Yes, I think so too.
That does provide an opportunity to libertarians, if we would like to jump on it, to become more involved in local politics and to try to enact some small but meaningful change.
Yeah.
And I think the Republican Party is a good home to try to steer it in the right direction right now. Because right now, I think they're going to have an identity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it maybe a lot of us are just kind of tired of Trumpism, and of hearing his name. I think we're just done. We would like to perhaps move on.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think it's basically over as far as legal lawsuits and accusations and stuff.
This last season was interesting of American politics. We're ready for next season and new things to happen.
Yeah.
Because we do kind of treat our life as a streaming service at this point.
Kind of, yeah. Well, and I started listening to the FEE, Foundation for Economic Education. They have a podcast, and it's called Words and Numbers. And I've started listening to that. And one of the most recent episodes they did, it's the first time that I've heard something positive about Biden. Like, the way they're talking about it, they seem to think he'll last all 4 years. And I was like, oh, that's different. Because I've got it in my head that, like, Kamala's going to try to kill him.
Right, yeah, me too.
That she's going to try to kill Biden within the, like if she does it too soon, that will count as her first term. And so she'd have to wait till after 2 years, the 2-year mark. But anyway, but these guys, like, they're talking about it like he'll last all 4 years. And that was really interesting. But they also had some positive things to say about what Biden has said. He said that he will not undermine the Second Amendment. I don't know his exact words, but that was the gist of it. Like, we're not going to get rid of all the guns, because if I go that way, then the next president might go the completely opposite way, and, like, everybody gets a machine gun. That type of thing. So
right, yeah, and that long-term gain.
Yeah. Yeah. And plus he also said something about, like, he's not going to use his executive power to overstep Congress or something like that. But just the way they were talking about what Biden had said, I was like, that's actually positive. Like, that's something to look forward to. So I don't know. I still don't think he's going to live all 4 years, but
I think he's just going to be ineffectual regardless. I don't think he's going to do anything.
I don't know. But it was nice to have that hope, just something positive might happen in the next 4 years.
You know what? Yeah, let's not take that away. Let's let something be at least adequate for this year. That'd be great.
That's right.
Because, like, this year has been pretty much an abject disaster, and then there was the ending of The Mandalorian, and then otherwise it's been a very disappointing year.
Yeah, I'm hoping by next Christmas things will just be great.
Yeah, I hope so too. And, this is what I tell my students, that 2020, for as bad as it is still probably better than 1020. Yeah. It's better than 020, Like, in terms of the comforts of human life, the standard of living, there's really still no other time that you would probably rather be alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing okay. And humanity has been through worse things than this. So maybe we should just chillax.
Mm-hmm. It's not going to be perfect going forward, but there are some things to be grateful for and to look forward to. So, and you know what? We can make the best of it.
And that's how my wife approaches our marriage.
There you go. Looking on the bright side.
Hey, I'm lucky. All right. So we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to go back to recording once a week because I am going to be starting homeschool, and
that's right.
I won't have as much time to do the editing. But we will plan on at least once a month. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we want to shoot for a once a month kind of deal and just give you more bang for your buck in that time. A nice big fat show to enjoy over time that'll hopefully have more things covered and more depth to them. Mm-hmm. So
that's the plan for now.
So where can people find us?
We're on the major podcast apps at Libertatheists. And if you'd like to contact us, you can still message us on Facebook, or you can comment on some of the videos that we have on BitChute and YouTube. And either way, we would love to hear from you.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.